There's something strangely satisfying about turning a weedy mess into a garden secret weapon. And no, this isn't another compost trick or worm bin hack. This is about brewing a foul-smelling green-brown liquid that makes gardeners wrinkle their noses but gets your soil teeming with life. If your compost pile is slow or your soil feels lifeless no matter how much organic matter you add, fermented weed tea might be exactly what you've been missing. Let's begin with a moment of honesty. Most gardeners pull weeds, toss them in a pile and forget them. But what if those same weeds, dandelions, purslane, chickweed, stinging nettle, held the exact nutrients your garden soil needs? What if, instead of wasting them, you fermented them? That's where this weird but genius method comes in. And the best part is, you don't need a special barrel or pump. A bucket, weeds, and some water is all it takes to start. Fermented weed tea is not your average garden brew. It's made by soaking fresh green weeds in water and letting them rot, intentionally. Over 1 to 2 weeks, the mix ferments, breaking down plant cell walls and releasing a slurry of micronutrients, beneficial bacteria, and enzymes. The smell is strong, you'll know it's working, but don't let the odor fool you. This is pure liquid energy for your soil, and earthworms absolutely love it. When poured onto compacted or nutrient-depleted beds, the tea doesn't just feed the plants, it activates the biology beneath the surface. The fermented compounds act like a wake-up call to dormant microbes. They speed up the breakdown of old mulch layers, improve moisture retention, and create conditions where worms thrive. Especially in clay-heavy or sandy beds, this tea can soften the top few inches of soil faster than most organic fertilizers. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Not all plants react the same way to this elixir. The crops that benefit most from fermented weed tea tend to be the heavy feeders or fast growers, the ones that crave a boost of nitrogen and trace minerals during their peak growth phases. Think leafy greens like kale, spinach, Swiss chard, and lettuce. Tomatoes and peppers also respond well, especially during their vegetative stage when they're building strong stems and foliage. Corn, squash, and cucumbers love it too. But, go easy on root crops like carrots and radishes. The high nitrogen content can actually lead to more leafy tops and fewer developed roots. For those, a diluted version, maybe 1 part tea to 10 parts water, applied sparingly works best. The same goes for young seedlings. They definitely love microbial diversity, but not in heavy doses. What really sets this lazy fertilizer apart from compost tea or worm leachate is how quickly it activates life in the topsoil. Within just a few days of watering, you might notice an uptick in visible soil activity. Ants, beetles, and especially earthworms are drawn to the surface. That's because the fermenting weeds produce mild acids, alcohols, and sugars that mimic root exudates. Those natural compounds roots release to feed microbes. In a way, this tea imitates what living roots do, waking the underground network. You might wonder if the weeds you use will reseed or spread disease. That's a valid concern, but fermentation solves it. Soaking the weeds for 10 to 14 days kills most seeds and pathogens. The anaerobic conditions are too harsh for most plant diseases to survive. Still, avoid using invasive plants with rhizomes or persistent seeds unless you're sure they've broken down fully. If you're extra cautious, strain the tea through a cloth before using, and compost the solids separately. Applying fermented weed tea is honestly as simple as it gets. Once the bucket has brewed to its stinky peak, just dilute it, usually 1 part tea to 4 or 5 parts water, and pour it directly around the base of your plants. Avoid spraying it on the leaves, especially on hot days, since the acidity and microbial load might cause a bit of mild burn. Use it once every 10 to 14 days during the growing season. You'll quickly notice deeper green leaves, faster growth, and soil that, stays damp longer. The most exciting part? Earthworms seem magnetized to soil treated with fermented weed tea. Whether it's the moisture, the microbial bloom, or the rotting plant matter, they tunnel up from deeper layers and begin feeding near the surface. Their movement aerates the soil, mixes organic matter, and spreads beneficial microbes. In short, this lazy tea doesn't just feed your plants, it builds the entire soil food web. There's something kind of poetic about letting your weeds work for you. The same plants that usually compete with your crops can actually be transformed into a rich living tonic. No waste, no cost, no synthetic additives. Just time, patience, and, well, a nose that can tolerate the smell. And if you're growing crops like kale, tomatoes, corn, or cucumbers, you'll see just how fast this living brew kicks your soil into gear. So next time you're pulling weeds, don't just toss them, brew them. Let them ferment in a shady corner of your garden, and honestly, give your soil a jolt of microbial life. Your plants will thank you, and so will the worms. If this guide opened your eyes to what's possible with just a bucket of weeds, make sure to subscribe to Hydrohaven. Share this with a fellow gardener who's still throwing their weeds away. There's more life beneath the soil than we think, and with the right brew, we can bring it all back.